We're going to do a little bit of guard work, a little bit of half guard, but butterfly. A couple of things, especially with no gi. When you play half guard, a conventional half guard, you leave a very big open limb out, which is your leg. And unless you're able to control the upper body, you have to be really careful of this, because my partner at any time can spin around and attack this leg. So, and in addition, I cannot stop his forward pressure. And that's one of the ways that they start to attack this position and pass, is because it's forward pressure. You can move and go into knee cut, all these different things. I can't control his knee. So when we're in here, it's setting up a frame to protect this leg, but also to manage the distance between our hips, which is the outside butterfly hook. So what we're doing here is I'm going to brace off his near side hip. This hand, it's not a heavy cross face, but as my hip goes out, I want to make sure Keith's head moves over my head. That minimizes the amount of distance I need to make to put the hook in. If I keep his head to the outside and I move my hip, it's usually not going to be sufficient. I'm going to really have to work hard to put this hook in. But if I brace and engage this, it's like I'm already making contact, so it's not a strike. But as my hip goes out, my elbow extends over my head. That usually gives you enough space to put the hook in. Once the frame is in, now I can control the distance. I cannot get leg locked on this leg, but instead of working overhook or underhook, you're going to swim your arm to the inside. The near side cross face. This arm goes under the leg, and I want to get under his hips. The bottom leg opens up because I have the butterfly hook, and I'm going to use that to get my hip underneath him. And we're going to go X guard. Just like this. And you see how Keith has already got his hands on the mat. We're going to do two options. One where I kind of force him to commit his hands on the mat. And the other one, I just want to make him light on this leg, so I'm going to extend my hook. When you extend the hook, you see this leg becomes very, very light. All we're going to do now is to keep the top hook. The bottom leg comes out, steps over, and I rotate my hips to put his knee on the ground. Bend in. Now we go to the backside 50-50 here. Point the foot up and stay tight. This way, it's going to be hard for him to run away from me. See? If I hold his leg down, it's too easy. You lose that control. So I bite and bite. Now my elbow, the blade of the wrist comes around. I lock onto his heel, pinch the knees together, and you have the lock right there. Starting right here. Go out. When you move your hip out, your hip and your elbow work side by side. The arm never moves independently of the hip. If I just push the arm, he can mount, like I'm too stretched out. It must be the hip at the same time. My hip goes out, arm goes out. Now I have all the room I need. Then if you need to, you can use that to create a little bit of space to get this arm in. But this goes under the near side arm at the same time you go under his leg. And the key here is to create the leverage by opening up the bottom leg. Now I just get my hip under him and extend the hook. Frame with the upper hand, the outside hand, and we make our X control. I'm holding the back of his knee and framing right here because I don't want his weight coming back towards me. The hook maintains that distance. And I want to put more weight on the outside leg so this one is light. This is very important for his safety too, because I'm working around his knee. If his knee is heavy, it puts pressure. So the entry, I never want to put pressure on his knee. I block, I create a little extension, rotate my hip, throw my leg over, hook his thigh, and push his foot up as I bend my body in. You see the compression with his leg. I don't want any sort of extension. This way. Now I can adjust my hip, blade of the wrist right along the heel, tuck the foot in, pinch the knees. Now you have, all that's left is a rotation. There's no need to do that, but you can see the lock that we have him in. This is the heel hook. Okay, once again. And keep in mind, you notice how Keith already has the underhook. This can work like this, or if I have disciplined arm placement, I already have this frame. Same rule applies, only now it's just the elbow. And the elbow opens up. Now my hands go under, stretch, X guard, I stretch him out. Now all I'm doing is rotating my hip and putting his knee to the ground. Throw the leg over, hook the outside leg, bite, keep the foot pointed up, tuck the toes right in the armpit, blade of the wrist against the heel, and hold. Just finish in this position. There's no need to create the rotation for the finishing technique. As long as you feel your knee biting down and the heel biting down, you have the lock. Okay, are there any questions? You good? Yes, sir.
So once you already have the inside spacing underneath, you're not really using the arm, you're just using the hook to create the extension, right?
Yes, the arm though, that's a good question, Max. The arm does assist, this arm. Once we get in here and I have the X, I definitely want this here, this frame. You're not really, this is more of like a brace. As much as he tries to bring his weight forward, it's gonna definitely be more of my legs that hold him off. But I don't want to do this and allow him to start circling back. So just think of it like a stiff arm. Think of it like a stiff arm. Make sense?
Yes.
Anyone else?
Jay, can you go through the whole rotation again and then stop at the very end?
Right here?
And then, yeah, keep going. Go for the lock. Okay, stop right there. Now, does it matter? I noticed that does it matter? Do you need to key lock your legs together? Or does it matter? Because
I don't think it matters. I prefer the hook on his thigh.
Yes,
So
sir.
he can't backstep. I lean in a little bit, but I pinch my knees. See my knees, that motion.
Yes, sir.
I feel like if I do anything like this, it exposes my foot, but it also actually takes the pressure off his knee. I'd rather just bite and keep his foot up. And just be careful, like, especially when you do this, I don't want to start pulling his foot across because that's putting a lot of lateral pressure on his knee. That's why when I go after the foot, I kind of bend my body in a little bit. Then once I get heel exposure, pull everything back in, everything is back in. As long as you have isolation above the knee and below the knee, you have the leg. It's the most important component. Then you're not relying so much on the scramble.
Yes, sir.
Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Anybody else? Let's go. 1, 2, 3. Like I was mentioning, when you enter into this, you make your hook, you get in. Part of the ability with the X guard, especially if we're going to go after, because a lot we can do from this position, but because you're under the hips, you have access to the legs, and especially this leg. What I want to do is put his knee in my stomach. So, like I was saying, we extend the hook to make this leg light, but the target point is right here. I can pick either side. I like the back side. I think it's more dangerous. But you see how I'm holding here? Now all I'm doing is when I take whichever side I want to go, the opposite hook comes out. If I want to go that way, this one comes out, and I rotate my hip. And you see his knee just drops. Now I just hook his leg, and we can go right into our finish. But the entry, putting that knee directly over your belly, and you rotate your hip. As long as I'm holding here, I can even go this way. This way too. Either way, but your entry is everything. Once you get comfortable with your entry, sometimes he's going to dictate by how he moves, but with this, in this case, you have such a tight control over the knee, and there's no pressure on his knee. It's your hip. Your hip creates the entry, but make sure when your hip moves and his knee drops, fold yourself in half. Because everybody does the same thing. You cannot stay in this position very long. Once you get here, you have to anticipate he's going to try to run away. So I cannot stay here very long. Once I get here, I hold, rotate, bite. This prepares you for him trying to run. See? And I hook his leg. And take your time. This is, again, we talk about this all the time. I want to make sure I never hurt my partner. There's no stress on his knee, on his foot right now. This is just control. Once I get him to kind of settle down, he already feels some control over his knee. The way I like to do this, we're going to dominate and get control below the knee first. Then I bite on the knee. So I'm below and above. If you're the one caught in here and you feel the control below and above, that is a red flag. I advise the less experienced you are, that's the point in which you tap. As you get more experience, you'll kind of tread that thin line with defense. But right now, this is very, very important. Okay, but you see how we did that? Put the knee on the stomach and just the rotation. Let's just practice that a little bit more and then we'll move on. Okay, let's go. 1, 2, 3. Same entry. Half guard, I make my frame. The hook, this hand comes under. Anytime I'm able to get under his hips, we'll go into the X and I'm framing. And you notice that I kind of turn towards his upper body. That's gonna always get this reaction because he's gonna lose his balance. He's gonna plant his hands. So what can we do from here? I'll give you guys 2 options. One is very basic, one is gonna be a little bit more advanced. But the first one is if I create the commitment of his instability by driving his weight forward, I'm just going to simply encourage that and keep stretching. But when I stretch, I hold the knee. So now it's just technical stand up. Come up, but to make sure he does not get away from me, it's the bite. Now, as much as he tries to run, and then I can physically ground him to the mat. It's pressure on his knee, so I don't want to do that. I can reach across and ground him, but it's just how do I maintain that control? Oh, sorry, 1 second. All you're doing is technical stand up. For some of you that are newer, like how do I get up from the bottom, sideways, without exposing my face? Top leg is here, just hand and lift the hip and come up. It's exactly what we're doing. I just drive. See my hand, my foot, come up and then fold the leg. Just like that. You can be aggressive with this and snap them down, but no need for that. Drive, and then as soon as I get him far enough away, I come up. Okay? That's 1. 2. His commitment to posting, we can exploit that. You'll notice that I'm not holding on to this arm. I'm just going to simply block. You have to have the ability to do a backward roll, but you're going to roll over your near side shoulder. Not the shoulder that the leg is on, the open shoulder. You're going to coil your hooks and take him right over. Maintain the X guard. Now I just fall back, throw my leg over, and you have the knee bar. Once you create this wedge, and it's always tension and commitment. Every time he tries to circle back into me, the hooks keep him grounded. Now I just want to block. I don't want to go that way. I want to go straight over my shoulder. That way he can't post. And you see how I maintain the X guard? This gives me the frame and then the space to attack the knee. And for control, I advocate throw the leg over and fall to the side. Not on your back. Right here. We go out, in, up, right here. Not on here, because here, that hand opens up, right at the elbow. Now I'm just coming over. See, but I never disconnect the hooks. That allows me to engage my hips, makes it harder for him to defend his knee. Now I just fall to the side, throw my leg over. Right here. And then we just drive the hips forward. Okay? Any questions? Awesome. Let's go. 1, 2, 3.